Hello and welcome to the tutorial for Compliance Dashboard HIPAA Pro. This is the landing page of the tool. When I first log in, this is where I will start. There are 6 main modules, with the most important being HIPAA Privacy and HIPAA Security. These two are the core modules where I will create my privacy manual and my security manual for my organization. However, when I enter the tool for the first time, a good place to start is the Getting Started section. This section gives me some really high-level information on HIPAA and answers the question, how does this tool help me? Well, it gives me step-by-step instructions on how to bring my employer-sponsored health plan into compliance with HIPAA. It helps me create my policy manuals. It gives me resources to help me train my workforce, and it gives me access to all relevant sample documents. One other thing about the Getting Started section is that there are links throughout our HIPAA tool to the EBIA HIPAA library. This is a way to provide another in-depth resource. This is my first opportunity to log in here. If for whatever reason I don't log in now, I will be prompted to log in upon my first attempt to access linked content elsewhere in the tool. The subscription for EBIA is included in the license fee for HIPAA Pro. An example of the EBIA content is available right from the sidebar of the Getting Started section. We have links to a selection of EBIA articles that provide a really good introduction to HIPAA. Since I have already logged in above, the links will access these articles directly. Now we can go back and get started on HIPAA privacy. This is where we are really starting our project. We're going to create a set of policies that our organization follows to ensure that we are in compliance with all of the HIPAA privacy requirements. When I enter the HIPAA privacy section, I can see a step-by-step instructions outlining what I need to do to bring my health plans into compliance with HIPAA privacy. On the left-hand sidebar, I see policy narrative articles. For each policy that will be in my manual, we've created a reference article. We will come back to those. But step 1 is to create my draft privacy manual. By clicking here, I'm brought to a series of fillable forms. I'm going to answer some questions necessary for populating my privacy manual. I've just completed my information, and I'm brought to a page where I can double check the accuracy. If everything looks good, I can click Yes, Download Now. And I will download a draft privacy manual. What's important to understand about this tool is that the actual deliverables are a series of Word and Excel documents. This is so I can store all of my documents locally and manage them more easily. At this point, I now have my draft manual. It also contains all of the information which I previously entered into the system. Step 2 is to review my policies. Now I can go into these narrative articles to get a deeper understanding of the purpose behind each policy in my draft manual. I'm going to take the Business Associate article as an example. All of the narrative articles follow the same format, starting with a brief overview of the aims of this particular policy, followed by a link to some more in-depth information available through EBIA. If a particular policy in our draft manual uses some generic language that could potentially be strengthened, we will call that out in the narrative article. The narrative article also addresses which workforce members are governed by this particular policy and calls out the specific HIPAA citations addressed by this policy. You most likely won't need that information unless you're actually audited. And the last section of the narrative article is a link to sample forms. For a lot of policies, there are sample contracts or sample forms that you can use to more easily administer the policy itself. For example, the Business Associate Agreement is a big one. Here we link directly to EBIA's sample Business Associate Agreement. So, I've created my draft manual, and I've reviewed all my policies to make sure that I understand what they're asking of me and my organization, and to make sure that they are applicable to my organization's unique operations. The last requirement is that I maintain a copy of my finished product for at least 6 years and log any modifications made to it. Provided is a sample policy modification log that I can use. And that's it. I've completed the HIPAA privacy module. The HIPAA security module functions much the same way, with an initial set of step-by-step instructions. The one difference here is that before I create my draft security manual, I must conduct a risk analysis. HIPAA Pro provides a sample risk analysis. If my organization doesn't already run a risk analysis, or I'm not sure that my existing risk analysis covers risks to electronic protected health information, then I can use the sample analysis from our system. And I can use it wholesale, or I can use it to modify any existing risk analysis that I might already conduct. The sample analysis is downloaded as a spreadsheet with instructions for completion. So I've done my sample risk analysis, and I'm back at the instructions. Step 2 is to create my draft security manual. I'll click here. It'll take me to another set of fillable forms where I'll enter the relevant information. I'm not going to go through that again right now, but at the end I download another Word document just like in the privacy module. Again, I review all of the policies in the document to make sure that I understand the requirements and to make any necessary changes to ensure that the documents reflect my organization's operations. Again, I can use the narrative articles here on the left-hand sidebar. One article for every policy in my Word document. The last thing that's different about the security manual is that the policies themselves, as well as the narrative articles, provide an indication of whether a policy is addressable or required. If a policy is required, then my organization needs to implement that policy. But if it's addressable, my organization has a bit more leeway, and that's discussed here. Now I've gone through and created my draft privacy and security manuals. I've reviewed my policies for applicability to my organization's unique situation, and now I must conduct training for my relevant employees who have access to protected health information. HIPAA Pro provides a training guide that I can adapt to cover my own policies, complete with speaker notes. A sample document library is the collection of all of the sample documents and contracts that are also available in the narrative articles so that I can find a particular document more easily. And finally, there's a glossary of helpful terms. The last thing I'm going to see is the help section. With the license fee, I get 1 hour of email correspondence with a HIPAA consultant. So if I'm really stuck or have questions at any time, I can feel free to email the HIPAA consultant. I can also email technical support if I'm having issues with the operation of the tool. Now you should have an understanding of how HIPAA Pro is set up and how it's designed to help you bring your health plan into compliance with the HIPAA requirements.